Hey, look at that. We get to hear celebration at least one more time.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about your Oakland A's as we're wrapping up this season. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode of Locked On A's is brought to you by Booking.com, more like Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball, and get the Booking.com app today. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, on Instagram. I am your pal Sully, but Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. It has been a very eventful day in baseball today, and no more fun was had anywhere than the A's once again avoiding 90 losses, and in front of 30,000 close friends, the A's gave their fans, well, a big thrill. Tonight was an absolutely thrilling game, and in front of that size of house on a nice night in Oakland, where it was a little bit of everything, some clutch relief pitching, some base stealing, some big doubles, and the A's wound up winning a game without the benefit of a home run, mind you, and doing so despite the fact that the Rangers got a very nice pitching performance from one of the really solid big game pitchers of the last bunch of postseasons. And the A's took a thriller, and they got a walk-off. Now, let's just review some of the stuff for this, because, we only have so many Oakland A's games left. We have two more in Oakland. We got Wednesday and we got Thursday. And I was, after the sweep by the Yankees, that included a couple of games that were within the A's reach. There was the one blowout. We all knew they were losing that one. But the fact of the matter is that so many games that they could have won this, they could have won that. In front of 30,000 fans to have a game like this, it was something else. And of course, Eovaldi's a wonderful pitcher, and it looked bad from the start. Adolis Garcia got that double. It was the A's were down a run before they even came to bat. And then Langoliers doubled and Soderstrom doubled. Then the Soderstrom's double brought home Langoliers. And next thing you know, the A's are up 2-1 against a very good pitcher in Nathan Eovaldi. But then the A's manufactured a run in the third, and it was capped off by a grounder by J.J. Bleday. Next thing you know, it's 3-1. And I'm thinking, do you know what we haven't seen in a while? A blowout A's win. I mean, it's been a while since the A's have took a laugher. When they're up 3-1, I said, okay, come on. Let's rally. Let's have a laugher. Nope. Nathaniel Lowe homered, and then all hell was breaking loose in the fifth, and it just looked like, Spence just ran out of gas. I mean, let's face it. Spence was given a 3-1 lead, and he pitched 92 pitches and did not get out of the fifth. And poor McFarland came up and inherited the bases loaded after a hit by pitch tied the game. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. I mean, it's just like this was the Yankees series all over again. That it was going to be, the A's were going to tease us, this, that, and the other thing. And then Taveras grounds out, ends the inning. Okay, 3-3. And then Soderstrom, Soderstrom had a day. Soderstrom had a day with his two doubles, and he drove in a run in the sixth. A's are up, and then actually no, he didn't. He that's right. He got the ground rule double. That's right. It bounced over the wall. Langoliers would have scored because it was a ground rule. But anyway, the A's wound up taking the lead, but then the freaking home run by Jonah Heim. Next thing you know, it's 4-4. And Mason Miller just didn't look like he didn't look like his normal self. And the Smith single, and then there's runners on second and third, and I'm like, oh no, this would just suck to have 30,000 people at the Coliseum. For some of them, no doubt could be their final game there, and don't have it be a Mason Miller loss. I can't, because then I started getting flashbacks. Two of the worst losses of the year were against the Rangers. Remember, there was the game when the A's had won a bunch of series in a row. They got back to 500 on the May the 4th blowout of Miami. They lost the final game to Miami, but they're only one game under 500. And then the Corey Seager home run in the 8th inning that gave the Rangers the lead that really sent the A's on a massive spiral, an absolute massive spiral. And then there was the game a couple of weeks ago against Texas where the A's had a multi-run lead in the bottom of it was either the 10th or the 11th. It was extra because they had the stupid Manfred band on. And Miller, who just didn't have a slider, so just kept throwing fastball, and he let the walk-off home run with 2 outs in extra innings. Those are two of the roughest losses of the year, in my very humble opinion. That and the loss to Cincinnati was another bad one. I thought, don't do it. Come on, don't do it in front of 30,000. Wanted to have one last good memory at the Coliseum. But then he got Adolis Garcia to pop up, and then Gelof singles to lead off the 9th, and then he steals second base, and Jacob Wilson. Remember Jacob Wilson, who in his first game was scoring and then pulled a hamstring, and a marvelous bit of symbolism for the 2024 A's. Well, now Jacob Wilson got a base hit up the middle. The throw home was a little high. Gelof scored, and we got ourselves a chance to cue celebration one more time. And you saw Wilson with his arms up in the air and 30,000 going crazy. And it was just a good, solid game. The A's played error-free ball. They didn't rely on the long ball. And they didn't let the Rangers get that big inning. That's been the key for this A's team. Don't rely too much on the long ball. Manufacture a run or two. They manufactured 5 of them. Play error-free baseball. Then no miscues. And don't give up the big inning. The Rangers scored in the 1st, 4th, the 5th, and the 8th. But they never scored more than 1. They didn't let the game get out of hand. They didn't let them take the lead except for in the 1st inning. They never got the big rally. And with that, the A's got the win. And I don't want to say nightmare. That's too strong a word. But my worry, how about that? Worry's a better use. My worry was that the A's were not going to win in this homestand, that they're going to be swept by the Yankees and swept by Texas. And of course, my hope is the A's run the table. Because if they run the table, they won't lose 90 games. Or at least don't lose 90 at home. So if they win you're watching this on Wednesday. If they win on Wednesday and they win the finale, then they go up to Seattle, still not yet with 90 losses. That's what I was hoping. And with this, the A's got their 485th walk-off victory in Oakland, which I think is really cool. Lots of great walk-offs. What would be the greatest walk-off? And it's obviously going to be Scott Hatterberg's home run. But there's some other great ones. The Coco Crisp single, Manguel's single that ended Game 4 of the World Series in '72. There have been some very good walk-offs. Tell me on right down here on YouTube, what's your favorite walk off? And I think I have to take Hatterberg off the table. We have to take Hatterberg off the table because that's the too obvious. Was it the walk off bunt in 2003? There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them. So write it down right here. Tell me your favorite A's walk off at the Coliseum. Your favorite time to hear celebrate good times. I remember being at a game against the A's and the Red Sox in 1990, and Rob Murphy of the Red Sox inexplicably was facing Mark McGwire. Rob Murphy was a nice reliever. He was a left-handed reliever facing Mark McGwire, and McGwire hit a walk-off grand slam that I received no evidence that it ever landed. It cleared the wall at Fenway Park, which is strange because the game was being played in Oakland. Let me know your favorite walk-offs in A's history. Put it right down there. Let's have some happy memories. And by the way, A's fans tonight got a happy memory. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed, and it's available in more than 30 states across the country, including Texas, Georgia, and right here in California. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Thanks so much for making Locked On A's your first listen today. Now check out my other show, Locked On MLB, where I get you prepared for the Fall Classic. I got it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. There was a tremendous amount of fallout from the John Fisher letter. And the more I saw some of the responses to it, the more I just realized just what a disgrace that letter was. That obviously he didn't write. I'm convinced he used ChatGPT because it just seemed like it was not written by an actual human. It's funny. One of the people who came out big time was former A's pitcher Trevor May. Trevor May wasn't an A for that long. It's not like it was, Raleigh Figures or Rick Honeycutt or, Bob Welch. Oh, if it was, if it was the late Bob Welch, that would have been news. That would have been front page news if the late Bob Welch said something. When I said Bob Welch's name, I completely forgot that Bob Welch died a few years ago. Now, just review that John Fisher wrote, or one of his subordinates wrote for him, a completely disingenuous letter about we wanted to get something done in Oakland. We wanted to build a stadium here. There was a lot of passive aggressiveness in it. There's a lot of passing the buck left and right. And there were some things in there that were lies and a couple of things that were extraordinarily misleading. And of course, he sent this letter. It was posted it was posted on the internet. Again, John Fisher doesn't go out and face the music or anything. Trevor May, former A's pitcher, wrote, "Dear John, with all due respect, which is more than you likely deserve, save it. Be an adult. Get in front of a camera. Say it with your chest. Releasing a letter clearly written by someone else, including a bunch of names you definitely do not know, is just disrespectful to those who love the team. We tried, LOL. The fact that you still think that anyone cares about that at this point shows once again your lack of understanding about why people love the game. You love owning stuff, just not your action. Either stand up with pride or keep hiding. Pick one. We're tired." That's pretty straightforward. A lot of people pointed out some of the things there that were not true, saying that Vegas didn't come up. They didn't discuss Vegas until 2021. A lot of people who were behind the scenes said, no, they've been talking about this for literally decades, trying to get a team in Vegas. The disingenuousness of saying, oh, we tried to get a deal in Howard Terminal, but it didn't work out. Well, it didn't work out because the minute the deal was coming together, they pulled out and started moving the proverbial goalposts. I'm not saying that the politicians of the East Bay are without blame, but what John Fisher was demanding from them, which is so much less than what is being demanded from Las Vegas, is insane. But of course, the biggest misdirect was saying that there was a deadline, a hard deadline in the collective bargaining agreement that said they had to come up with a new place to play by the end of the 2024 season. Okay, this is partially true. This is partially true that there was language in the last collective bargaining that had a deadline for 2024. But what that deadline was not that the team was going to be dissolved or he was going to be forced to sell the team. That's when the revenue sharing was going to end for the A's. It had nothing to do with the A's being forced to build a stadium by then. It's just he wasn't going to get the revenue sharing agreement anymore if he was still hanging around after the 2024 season without any attempt to change the playing situation. And he just wants the revenue sharing. The A's have been profitable because he gets good TV revenue money. He cashes the revenue sharing and invests $0.00 in the team and in the payroll. So, by the way, please watch Larry Beal, who's been a commentator, a sports figure in the Bay Area for many, many years, about his just watch his passionate, angry response to the Fisher nonsense. I mean, a lot of people wrote some really great stuff. The Larry Beal response was really great, but he kept pointing out that the Warriors owner, Joe Jacob, wanted to buy the A's, said so publicly, said so in a CBS Reports article written less than a year ago, that he wanted to buy the A's and keep them in Oakland. And this was behind the gag order that MLB put on potential, that there was a gag order against any potential Bay Area investors who wanted to keep the A's in Oakland. That basically, if you spoke publicly about wanting to buy the A's, you would be disqualified. That they were absolutely stacking it so the A's would leave Oakland. Can you imagine? Especially, the Warriors left Oakland for this ridiculously exorbitant arena in San Francisco. There was no reason for that. You could have built that in the Oakland Coliseum parking lot, or maybe downtown Oakland. But it's one of the things that makes the whole A's thing so rotten is that you had the A's and the Raiders and the Warriors, and way back then the Golden Seals, but that didn't work out. That was the NHL team. You had all that in this one region, this one physical space. And they all left. Boom, boom, boom. There was no reason for the Warriors to leave. If you wanted a new arena, build that new arena there. You didn't have to build it right down the street from where the Giants played. And as I said before, if the A's had to move, there would be a wonderful balance of sports in the Bay Area. San Francisco would have the Giants. The Silicon Valley would essentially have the 49ers. The Sharks would be playing the South Bay. The Warriors would play in the East Bay. You would have the entire Bay Area, each subset of the Bay Area represented by a major sports team. But no. And can you imagine what, with Joe Jacob and the brain trust fund, the Warriors running the A's, what that would mean to the possible fortunes of the team? Let me put something in perspective here. My family moved from New England to the Bay Area in the mid-1980s. The 49ers, when I arrived there, were king. They were the franchise of the Bay Area. They had Joe Montana, they had Jerry Rice, they had Ronnie Lott, they had Roger Craig, they had, all these great players, and Bill Walsh was the coach. So the Niners were a dynasty, winning multiple Super Bowls. They won a Super Bowl in freaking Palo Alto. And when they played at Stanford Stadium, which is still bizarre to me that the Super Bowl was played in my hometown. But the Niners were king, and both the A's and the Giants suddenly became good. Giants made the playoffs in 87. The A's went on that great run where the Coliseum was absolutely a dizzying and exciting place to be. The Sharks didn't exist yet, and the Warriors were a complete afterthought. The Warriors of the mid-'80s, when I arrived there, people had to be reminded they existed. This was they acquired Ralph Sampson at one point, and it was Sleepy Floyd, and when they had Manute Bol there chucking up three-pointers, that was a novelty. But the Warriors were not a very good team, even though they had Chris Mullin. They made the playoffs by the late 80s. They started to turn it around, but the Warriors were an absolute afterthought. Now, look what the Warriors have become as they delivered title after title. When my kids were born in the mid-2000s, I went to the NBA store. I was visiting New York. We were living in the Bay Area again, but I was visiting New York, and I went to the NBA store, and I wanted to get a little Warriors jersey for my 18-month-old. And the person at the NBA store kind of did a double take, like, you want a Warriors jersey? Really? When I was working at KQED as a TV producer in San Francisco, we did a segment about the Warriors halftime squad. And believe me, this was the mid-2000s, not a lot of interest. Then suddenly, ownership turned things around, and the Golden State Warriors of all teams became an absolute dynasty. Fish stink from the head up, or could be great from the head up. And as someone had said the other day on on one of the comments that I read, that essentially, if you have the right ownership, even a bad team can turn around. Even a hopeless team can turn it around. And that's exactly what happened with the Warriors. Imagine if they were in charge of the A's. People who are willing to invest in the team. People are willing to put their money where their mouth is. Willing to keep the players and try to make the team and have some sense of what a team like this means to the community. They could have had that. And if baseball had a commissioner, and they don't, they have someone named Rob Manfred, who is, I don't know what exactly he's doing. But the fact of the matter is, this team could have been saved. Instead, they are going to Sacramento, and a spoiled idiot who earned $0.00 in his life is running the team and will run them into the ground. And Las Vegas, if you think for 1 nanosecond he is going to invest as much as this on the quality of his team, you should be begging Major League Baseball to send an expansion team and not this idiot. This episode of Locked On A's. I'm sorry, wrong show I'm doing a read for. This episode of Locked On A's is brought to you by Booking.com, or as I like to say, Booking.yeah. Explore U.S. cities you secretly wanted to learn more about, like Sacramento and Las Vegas, and book your hotel stay at Booking.com. This summer I went on a great baseball trip. I went to Buffalo, which is an underrated city. Stayed downtown Buffalo, beautiful city. Went to Niagara Falls. I went to a Buffalo Bisons game. Fantastic stadium. Then I went to Syracuse, saw a Syracuse Mets game, and stayed at another terrific hotel, and then drove all the way to Cooperstown. And I spent 2 glorious days at the Baseball Hall of Fame and stayed at a hotel right on the lake and walking distance to the Hall of Fame. Each time I got it through booking.com. Booking.com can help you book a stay that's close to your home team or rival stadium. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city. And then you can look for hotels that look over stadiums or those fabulous places I stayed in Cooperstown. Go to booking.com, or should we say booking.yeah. I want to point something out. The Padres, I've said this before and I said it again, are the model of what the A's could have been. They had an owner, Seidler, who passed away a couple of years ago. Actually, no, I think it was last year. And he invested in the team, and they played in a fantastic stadium. And this was a market that looked like it was doomed from the start. In fact, they almost moved to Washington in 1974. It looked like a completely squeezed out market with Mexico to the south, the Pacific Ocean to the west, the desert to the east, and Dodger country to the north. And instead, the San Diego Padres, thanks to a game-ending triple play against Los Angeles, despite playing in a much smaller TV market, is just 2 games behind the Dodgers, the high-paying Dodgers, and clinched a spot in this year's postseason. This is what the A's could be. No one thought San Diego could be a market like this. They were the absolute poster children for a small market team. And now they're in the playoffs for the 3rd time since 2000, in 2020. And they could win it, but they invest in the team. Free agents sign there. And when they lose players, they fill them with better players. And they could go win it all this year. I know I've said it before, but watching that triple play and the highlights not long after the walk-off, after watching Zack Gelof slide home, not long after that was the game-ending triple play. And man, I can't help but think that there would have been a Petco Park for the A's somewhere. I never bought the Howard Terminal thing, and that one never made sense to me. It always made sense to be in the parking lot of the Oakland Coliseum. But I digress. 2 more games. 2 more games, and then let the nomad life begin. So follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about a night of fun, a walk-off hit, and 30,000 fans thrilled. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.